There are only so many major news stories each year, and we have one of them today. And this is actually, I would argue, one of the biggest news stories of the decade. We've been waiting for the Supreme Court's decision on abortion rights, two cases that historically establish the right to an abortion in most cases in the United States. Those are Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. The Supreme Court, we knew sometime in the next few weeks, maybe by the end of June, would issue a decision on a Mississippi abortion ban, which would, in practice, overturn Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, depending on what the court decides. And that decision has been leaked. It has not been announced by the Supreme Court, but it has been leaked, and reputably so. And if nothing changes, the Supreme Court will be overturning abortion rights as a federal, in most cases, right, sending it back to the states, plunging many states back into, should we call it medieval times? Should we call it the Dark Ages? Should we call it the 1850s, the 1950s? There are actually two cases here. Most people know about Roe v. Wade, but there's two cases, Roe v. Wade, as well as the 1992 Planned Parenthood decision, Supreme Court decision, Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Now, Politico got a copy of the draft opinion, and this is a major scoop. It really is, and there are conservatives mad about the fact that this leaked, but obtaining this is a major scoop. And the quote from the majority opinion, believed to be ready to go in a few weeks, is from Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, where he writes, quote, "Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences. And far from bringing about a national settlement of the abortion issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division." Now, before we go forward with the analysis on the assumption that this decision isn't going to change, we should put on record, in case things do change, that sometimes justices will circulate draft opinions, and there's still revisions and changes, and sometimes horse trading for votes. I mean, things happen. You would think that that doesn't happen at the Supreme Court, but it does. And up until days before it's made official, opinions can change. But right now, Roe v. Wade goes bye-bye. Planned Parenthood v. Casey goes bye-bye. Now, on the issue of blame, because I've gotten a ton of messages from people about who do we blame here? Do we blame the people that didn't vote for Hillary and all this different stuff? Listen, it's like when there's I'm not even going to make any analogies. We mostly blame the Supreme Court justices who voted this way. Okay, but we primarily blame them. And when it comes to the Supreme Court, then you go, well, why are they there? And so you go to Trump. Trump's choices are what made this a plausible reality. And we predicted and we were worried that it would happen, and it looks like it's happening. So we blame the justices and we blame the president who put them there, who's Donald Trump. Well, why was Trump there? We mostly blame the people who voted for Donald Trump and put him in this position. But we also say, hey, as an instructive element, as something we should remember, those people who said Hillary, Trump, it's all the same. It's all the same. I'm going to stay home, or I'm going to write in whoever because they said, Supreme Court, I don't care about the Supreme Court. When I was here saying, you realize what could happen if Trump wins and gets to pick Supreme Court justices, right? And some of you said, oh, I don't care about that. That's not a big deal. Well, there is some responsibility there as well. But most of it is the people who voted for Trump and the Supreme Court justices that he put there. We don't have to go crazy fighting about it. We just have to remember in case this comes up again. If you didn't vote for Hillary in 2016, this was the risk you assumed. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but this was the risk you assumed. You thought it was worth, I don't know, sending a message to the DNC or whatever, and that's totally fine. That's your right. But this was the risk you assumed, and now this is where we are. Now, the one thing here that could be a silver lining, I've been saying Democrats are heading towards a disastrous and potentially historic defeat in the midterms in November. It's possible that this might be what lights a fire under the left to say, wow, now we see the repercussions. We've got to get out there and vote. I'll come back to that. Let's go back a little bit. We often talk about how all Supreme Court nominees play coy when asked about abortion, and they say, well, it might come before the court and I can't prejudge and all these different things. Just as a reminder, here's Samuel Alito back at his confirmation hearing in 2006, kind of dancing around the question of, is abortion constitutionally protected? He said it was not in an earlier writing before being nominated. Here's how he danced around this question during his confirmation hearings.
Specter then brought up the often cited letter Alito wrote in 1985 in applying for a job in the Reagan White House, stating the Constitution does not protect a right to an abortion.
Do you agree with that statement today, Judge Alito?
Well, that was a correct statement of what I thought in 1985 from my vantage point in 1985, and that was as a line attorney in the Department of Justice in the Reagan administration. Today, if the issue were to come before me, if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed and the issue were to come before me, then I would approach the question with an open mind, and I would listen to the arguments. So you would approach it with an open mind, notwithstanding your 1985 statement? Absolutely, Senator. That was a statement that I made at a prior period of time when I was performing a different role. And as I said yesterday, when someone becomes a judge, you really have to put aside the things that you did as a lawyer at prior points in your legal career and think about legal issues the way a judge thinks about legal issues.
Here are Trump's three Supreme Court nominees, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch, when Roe v. Wade and abortion precedent came up during their confirmation hearings.
Is Roe a super precedent?
How would you define super precedent? And I'm answering a lot of questions about Roe, which I think indicates that Roe doesn't fall in that category. And scholars across the spectrum say that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled. But descriptively, it does mean that it's not a case that everyone has accepted and doesn't call for its overruling.
As a judge, it is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. By it, I mean Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Been reaffirmed many times. Casey is precedent on precedent, which itself is an important factor.
Senator, as the book explains, the Supreme Court of the United States has held in Roe versus Wade that a fetus is not a person for purposes of the 14th Amendment. And the book explains that.
Do you accept that?
That's the law of the land. I accept the law of the land, Senator, yes.
So everybody just kind of playing it off like, I don't know, there's precedent. It's the law. I don't have any big desire to overturn Roe v. Wade. But now, if nothing changes, it will be gone. Go back to what Hillary Clinton said back in 2018, where she said, quote, if Brett Kavanaugh becomes a Supreme Court justice, will he help gut or overturn Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion in America? Yes, of course he will. And she was right. And I am no fan of Hillary, but Hillary was right about many things, it turns out, in retrospect. This makes Donald Trump an extraordinarily consequential president. Trump, as far as we know personally, isn't even pro-life. Trump was vocally pro-choice until he was 68 years old. And then he ran as a Republican and had to come up with this explanation. Well, I met a kid I liked, and the mom said at one point she thought about aborting, and so then I was pro-life. Nobody believes it, if you're thinking critically. But it doesn't change that Trump may now be the most consequential anti-abortion president in history at this point in time. A totally clueless doofus. But he figured out a way to overturn Roe v. Wade, something I don't think he even cares about personally. This lets each state decide, do we restrict abortion? Do we ban abortion? And I've said it isn't even really clear what Democrats could do to save the midterms. But this reality that states now could ban or restrict abortion in absolutely authoritarian, retrograde ways, maybe it will help Democrats not get crushed in November. We talked about what if Biden forgives some student loan debt? What about cannabis decriminalization? I don't know. This could be the thing. It is possible that this is exactly the earth-shattering wake-up call that might get people to go out and vote because they realize this is Dark Ages stuff. We're leaving the country to retrograde elements of society to run things. And this issue could potentially reshape the midterms, and we'll talk about that more. Protests are already surging. Police are setting up barriers at the Supreme Court, and this could inspire all sorts of new voters, apathetic voters. We just can't say yet. Now, what do people do in red states? Does everyone with common sense leave the red states to go to the safe haven of blue states? I don't know. Do the leftists flood the red states to make them no longer red? And it is really quite the situation. And, for us who live in blue states like New York, much will probably not change. That's a reality. But for many people in other parts of the country, it will be a disaster. Now, what's next? What's next? Because some of the people against abortion are also against interracial marriage. Some of them are against divorce for religious reasons, or at least claim to be. Some of them are against gay adoption. Some of them are against gay marriage. They want it to be legal to fire people for their gender identity or sexual orientation, which, by the way, is still legal in more than 20 states. They want to be able to whatever. And once they discover that you can take away established rights from people if you put the right people on the court and do the right things at the state level to get a case in front of the Supreme Court, why would they stop here? They're not going to. That is for damn sure. So we are going backwards, and next I want to talk a little bit about the reaction from MAGA world to what we have learned overnight. One of our sponsors is CuriosityStream, the only subscription streaming service that specializes in documentaries. My audience can get a CuriosityStream subscription for only about $1 a month at curiositystream.com/Pacman. We all know Netflix than Hulu. They have some documentaries, but CuriosityStream has a way better selection in every category. I'm always finding documentaries on CuriosityStream I can't find anywhere else. I just watched Electing Lincoln, which is a 3-part series about what led to the election of Abraham Lincoln. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. CuriosityStream has an app for all of your devices. I've always got it going on the TV, or I can put it on my tablet when I travel. With CuriosityStream, I can explore a new topic I never knew I'd be interested in, or zone out with a great nature documentary. Whatever you're looking for, it's there, and you can get CuriosityStream for just $14.99 a year. That's less than $2 a month when you go to curiositystream.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. The link is down below.